It's time to engage, educate, and empower with Tracy Maxwell.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Engage, Educate, and Empower, the podcast which aims to highlight the social issues, life challenges, and daily problems that children, teenagers, and young adults around the world face. Today, my very special guest not only is an author, but she's also a martial arts expert. And she's doing amazing things to help teenage girls develop confidence, self-worth, and empower themselves. Master Jodi Harrison Lee is an author, teacher, mother, and 5th degree martial arts master. She has a BA in communication and an MA in education, and she taught grade 5 and 6 special education for 10 years while simultaneously pursuing martial arts and starting a family. Jodi's vision is a world where everyone is respected. Her mission is to empower others to feel and be strong inside and out. Her life experience, paired with over 25 years of martial arts training and teaching, helps her take others from a feeling of insecurity to one of personal strength. Jodi works towards her mission in 2 ways. First, she and her husband, Grandmaster Jung Lee, own and run a martial arts studio teaching the Korean styles of Taekwondo and Hapkido with their 3 children. They enjoy empowering their community. Currently, they are excited to launch their all-new virtual studio to reach a wider audience and make a bigger impact. In addition, Jodi wrote a book geared towards young women, outlining her philosophy of self-defense. The focus is on finding one's strength mentally, physically, and emotionally. And she loves teaching workshops on the topic. Her book is Find Your Strength, the essential self-defense handbook for every college woman. The secret to being safe, strong, and able to defend yourself. The book outlines Jodi's self-defense philosophy and includes 3 sections: mental strength, physical strength, and emotional strength. The goal being to develop all 3 strengths so as to build the true confidence necessary to defend oneself, and even more powerfully, to reduce the likelihood that one would ever become a victim in the first place. It is not only theoretical, it includes actionable items that the reader can take away and apply in their life today. So we're going to take a very quick commercial break, and when we return, it'll be my very great pleasure to introduce you to Master Jodi Lee Harrison. We'll be right back.
Tracy Maxwell is a retired nurse with over 36 years' experience in mental health and dementia. She has spent years studying, researching, and writing on dementia care, mental illness, and bullying in teenagers. Tracy struggled with chronic depression starting in her 20s, and after years of intense workplace stress, bullying, and harassment, her chronic depression intensified. Tracy wrote her book, Escaping the Rabbit Hole, My Journey Through Depression, as a way not to only relieve her stress and anxiety, but to help her friends and family better understand depression. The book became an international guide for mental health awareness, allowing Tracy to focus her attention on helping children, teenagers, and their parents work through mental health issues and bullying. She travels all over the world to meet with schools, mental health advocates, and experts in the mental health fields. She also offers online courses to help children, teenagers, and their parents work through issues, bringing families closer and to bring awareness to bullying in society. For more information on Tracy, her mission, the show, Tracy's book, and offered courses, visit tracymaxfield.com. You can see the latest news on mental health, upcoming guests on the podcast, read Tracy's blogs and articles, and more. Plus, follow Tracy all over social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube to watch the podcasts. See her daily messages and motivation and learn about each podcast guest and experts. Plus, while you're on the website at tracymaxfield.com, be sure to sign up for the free monthly newsletter. Follow Tracy with her upcoming events, interviews, seasonal tips, and the latest articles discussing important mental health topics and issues. And when you subscribe, you'll get a free copy of Tracy's booklet, Why Our Kids Are Suffering and How We Can Help Them. Just go to tracymaxfield.com. Tracy is committed to bringing parents and their children closer, to battle bullying and bring awareness to the mental health of children. That's why Tracy is offering her online courses to any adults, parents, children, and teenagers struggling during those hard times. Sign up for the course at tracymaxfield.com. You'll receive 8 full modules, over 12 videos, resources, and support discussing mental health, mood disorders, eating disorders, behavioral disorders, social media, drugs, suicide, risks and signs, and much, much more. Plus, you'll get access to Tracy's private Facebook group for individuals going through the same thing you are. Connect with others and share ideas, support, and motivation with Tracy helping along the way. Tracy's online courses is now for a limited time available for only $158. See all information online at tracymaxfield.com, where a brighter future is possible.
And welcome back, everyone. And as promised, it's my very great pleasure to introduce you to Master Jodi Harrison Lee. And before anyone starts making comments on the podcast, I'm very well aware that I made an error when I read out your bio in the intro. As I said, we're going to a very quick commercial break. We'll be right back. I actually mentioned you as Jodi Lee Harrison. So I do apologize, and I'm very well aware of the error I made. So, Jodi, thank you so much. I'm really happy that you agreed to be on the podcast. We waited a long time to connect with you because you were in Mexico for a period. But I think we're going to have a really great conversation today. So, welcome.
Yes, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I'm glad we're finally connecting.
Thank you. So what's really good about this podcast, I think, is we're going to be talking about how we can help empower kids, children, teenagers, young adults from a slightly different angle, because, my conversations are around mental illness and mental health and bullying, foster care, and the challenges kids experience. And martial arts is something that is actually increasing in popularity because research is finding that it helps not only develop a sense of self-worth and confidence, but it's very empowering for kids that actually participate in martial arts. Mm-hmm. So maybe I think the first question I have is, when we think of martial arts, we think of Taekwondo, we think of karate, we think of judo. You also do Hapkido. Mm-hmm. So I wonder, can you explain the slight differences between karate, Hapkido, and Taekwondo to begin?
Sure. Different martial arts originate in different countries. And my husband's Korean, so we teach the Korean styles of Taekwondo and Hapkido. And that's one thing that makes us a little different is we teach 2 styles. And what I love about them is Taekwondo is similar to karate and probably Kung Fu from China. And I think those are, when you think of traditional martial arts with the kicking and the punching and the blocking and sparring, that's those types of styles. And then you have another type, which I lump Hapkido and Aikido in the same category, and that's more practical self-defense. So if somebody grabs you, you learn ways to use your opponent's power against them and take them down and defend yourself. So they're very different, and I like them paired together because Taekwondo, with all the kicking and punching and blocking that we do, it makes you feel powerful and strong, and you can feel the strength in your body. Whereas Hapkido is more practical, and you actually learn practical techniques to defend yourself from a would-be attacker. So I like that we teach both together.
That's awesome. And I like what, so when we think of martial arts, obviously we think you're defending yourself against becoming a victim. And whilst that is extremely important, I love the mental component because it's now being introduced to help children and teenagers who've been victims of a bully. they're
Right.
actually encouraging parents that, as well as giving them the counseling support, it's a really good activity for them to pursue, because not only is it teaching them strength and the ability to defend themselves so they feel in control and more powerful, but it also teaches them patience and resilience, and also it's that community, because however many may be at that particular activity, it fosters camaraderie and confidence and enhances self-worth. And I hadn't really thought about it, but the more research I read on it, I thought this makes perfect sense. So primarily, what ages are you teaching right now?
Well, we teach the gamut, really. I have a little warriors class that's for 4 to 6 year olds. And then once I see that they have the focus to handle the regular program, then we transition them. And we have, I think our oldest students are in their 60s. We have some students in their 60s. So we teach the gamut. We put our teens and adults trained together. We keep the levels separate. So some studios will teach them all together, but we find it's a little easier to really focus on the needs of the students if we keep the ranks separate as much as possible, at least for the kids. And you touched on some, really important benefits of martial arts just there. I mean, students who come in and can, of course, it takes time, but you're developing so many different skills that help you build the true confidence that's necessary to, just walk through life with your head held high and knowing that whatever comes at you, you will be able to handle it. And, through the fact that it's a community is huge. And what's amazing to me is we'll have, especially students that have trained with each other for a long time, we can have this class of students that at school, they would not be in the same cliques, or they would not be hanging out together. In fact, one of those people may at school even like judge or look down on another person because, that kind of happens at school. It's unfortunately, but I just see this camaraderie amongst all of these students who are totally different. And it amazes me all the time, especially with our teams that train extra together. We have a sparring team and a demo team. But I'm always sitting and marveling, going, God, these guys are like all best friends. Yet at school, they wouldn't even have known each other. And so I think it's a place for them to come and feel like they're part of something.
I agree.
And they won't be judged. And we see it over and over again at promotions when people are struggling. Sometimes people might fail at something perceived, and you have the rest of the class just backing you up, saying, you know what, you can do it. And nobody's going to laugh at you and nobody's going to judge you. So it's cool.
No, sorry. And I love that you said that, because you have a BA in communication, you have a master's in education, you taught grades 5 and 6 for 10 years. And all kids need to be supported and accepted and validated. And I think that's what's missing in society today in general, right now. When you were teaching, did you use any of your martial arts knowledge, experience? Because you taught special needs children.
I did.
Did you use any particular techniques, or how did you find the best way to approach them to empower them?
It's funny. I think when I was teaching, because I started teaching at about age 26, I think, or 8, like my late 20s. And those 10 years, I was also like learning more about myself and doing martial arts myself. That was a huge growth, and then started raising children. So that was a huge growth period for me. I'm not sure I connected all the dots yet. It wasn't until I wasn't teaching anymore, just focusing on the studio. My kids were a little older. And when I started getting parents asking if I would do a self-defense program for girls, and I was like, no. I couldn't even imagine figuring out how I became who I had become. Like I wasn't sure at first. And then to think I could just teach that to somebody, I wasn't sure I could do that. And then once I went back, especially since traditional like self-defense programs are often so physical, they're about, you see them like kicking the crud out of the big padded bully guy. And I'm not putting that down. I think that's cool. But there's so much missing in there because I didn't want to teach people how to defend themselves in case somebody attacked them. I mean, I want to teach that, of course, but way more powerful and important is to teach somebody how to become a person that wouldn't ever be a target in the first place. That's what I wanted to do. So it took me a lot of thinking and writing and, how does that happen? And I knew that the martial arts philosophy was the key. And so I wanted to take that and develop it into a program because I had been saying this martial art creed over and over again for 20 years. Well, it hadn't been that long at that time, and it goes to build true confidence through knowledge in the mind, honesty in the heart, and strength in the body. And I had repeated that over and over and over again because you repeat it in class, but I never really connected what that meant and what all these years of martial arts had done for me. And then to be able to connect it to life and how life works, that was really powerful. So it really is just about becoming stronger mentally, physically, and emotionally, all of them packaged together. And then how do we do that?
No, and I absolutely agree because I'm a very firm believer in, when you're supporting and working with children, teenagers, you have to take a holistic approach. You have to look at the whole person. And it's so important that you meet that social, spiritual, physical, emotional need to help them become the person or the child that they want to be. I think we label children so easily. And we also, when we label them, I think it sets them on that path that if they haven't got a good support system, some structure in their life, they just kind of head towards that because they think that's all they're worth. Mm-hmm. So definitely, I'm a huge advocate of any kind of arts, sporting type of activity to help kids, but I especially like the martial arts component because it's more than, as you said, punching the hell out of a bag. It is much, much more than that.
And you don't have to be athletic, because it's not what it's about. It's not about being an amazing martial artist in terms of being able to do all these techniques so amazingly. It's about during your path to just become stronger yourself, like whatever your potential is, that's what you're striving for. And along the path, you're getting stronger physically, you're feeling good in your body, you're learning new things, it's just so great.
And as I said, the word I keep saying to myself all the time is it's empowering. Mm-hmm. It really is empowering. Now, I know that you are now doing martial arts for teenage girls and you have a special class for that. Why? So when you were asked to do it, was there a specific reason, or were you finding that you were having more teenage girls come into the class who seemed lost and needed to have, some space, some, I guess, something to bring them together?
It was really just some parents mentioning that this would be a great thing. Like, we would love to have some self-defense before our daughters go off to college. And so that is what got the ball rolling, and them just keeping on me until I created it. And I think too, having watched, I have a daughter myself, she's 19 now. And then looking at my own growing up, because that was pretty powerful. I was a person who was strong. Like, anybody would have said, oh, she's tough. right? Because I was the jock type person. But I was physically strong, and I thought I was physically strong, and I felt like I was smart. Like I had those two pieces that strengthen the mind and strengthen the body probably. But, and this just goes to show you that just because you're physically strong does not mean that you could not be a victim. You must have that strength in the spirit piece. That's the piece I was missing, because just like so many teenagers, especially teenage girls, you go through puberty, you get to, high school age, and you're looking for validation outside of yourself. You want to be liked, and you want to be liked by the opposite sex possibly, and you end up doing things and acting in ways to get validation. It's so dangerous. And I mean, there's so many subtle things that our society has created. So it's not even that it's somebody's fault. It's just the way society ended up, so we have to be, cognizant of that and then try to make some changes. But I think when I realized that about myself, that, gosh, I needed, because once I started changing, I realized I didn't fit into the mold of your typical girl. And so that was really difficult for me. And so now, I just love teaching people to embrace who they are, whatever that is, because it's amazing. All of our differences are too. And so then I got excited about trying to do this. And then I realized that there's a way to create a program that could help people, but it would be, usually I like to teach longer workshops so that I can get through the majority of it. So I'll teach like 2 or 3 day mini workshops, like that are like 3 hours each day or something, because you really have to dig deep and do some exercises and do some thinking and do some discussing, and that has to happen too. And then of course each of those days we get up and we kick and we punch and we feel stronger too. And they love that part. Yeah, but I'm not actually, I had some setbacks over this past year. So I've done workshops in the summer, but I haven't been able to go full force yet. Yeah, but I do workshops for Girl Scout troops, and every summer I do workshops here, but I want to do much, much more with it.
So in the work that you have done with the teenage girls especially, when you're having the workshops, have you noticed changes from maybe the teenage girl who walked in the door and sat down to the girl that walked out of the door after the workshop?
100%. It's super fun, which is probably also why I don't like doing one-shot deals, because you can't see the difference. But if I can see you a few days, so yeah, the first day they come in and we do the workout part, everybody's a little bit shy, because they may or may not know the people that they're working out with, and I'm asking them to yell, because in martial arts we key up, and when you hit, you yell, and they just think it's funny, and then they're timid. And then the next day it's a little bit more, and the last day, yeah, everybody's fine. Just now they're smashing hard. It's so cool to see the power that's coming out of them. And we always culminate by breaking a board. And that's just really fun. And they're always surprised and about it. And I feel good when they leave. And I always do a questionnaire too to see what I could do better. But for sure, it's.
And have any parents contacted you and said, wow, she's a different girl, or, she's much more confident, much more self-assured? Has anyone followed up then?
Yes, and I've had people who have, like a Girl Scout troop leader who's then brought another group after, they see the difference. I've had people ask me to do, can you do that again? Or can we do a mother-daughter one? Things like that. And I've even had people who have then come to train.
Awesome.
So they see the benefit of it.
And I actually love the mother-daughter component as well, because I think, you're a mom, and the world that kids are living in today and being brought up in is very scary, and it's extremely challenging. And also, if you have a single parent, or even if you have two parents that are working really to, maintain the house and make sure the car payments are made and everything, in many families, there is a disconnect between the parents and the child, the teenager especially, because I think during teenage years is when, even though they're pushing the parental influence away because they're trying to strive for their own identity and independence, it's also the time when they need them the most.
Yeah.
That safe place, but also that unconditional love, and I'm going to help you get through this. And I always kind of encourage parents to start having like date nights with
That's a good idea.
just to try and connect with them on a very different level and develop that trust, which will then maybe open the door to more honesty and better communication. So I think coming to a martial arts class together is just awesome, because they're coming in as two equals, really.
Yeah.
And so that's great. I love it.
Well, sometimes we get whole families that train together, and I'm telling you, when we've seen that, we have somewhere a whole family is our black belts now, and yeah, for sure you can see a powerful component of that. And actually, I've had people with the self-defense seminars ask if moms could come, and at first, when I was just starting to do this, and I was a little bit nervous about it, I was thinking, no, because then I can't ask the daughters questions that they might not answer because their parents are there. But then I thought about it, and I really think that, I think both are important. It's good to have the girls separate so you can have some conversations. But I think that the moms, or parents in general, I talk about empowering women, but it's really anybody. I think if they hear the same program, it's good for all of us to be empowered, but I think an important component about really creating change on a massive level is for us as adults, especially parents or people who work with kids, to look back and recognize the part that we played. And I don't mean in a blaming sense, but if I look at some of my stories from when I was a teenager, and if I can stop for a moment and embrace them, and then possibly be able to share some of them to stop the cycle continuing with our children, that would be super powerful. So we can teach our children separate and but it will be way more powerful if we can actually understand the sort of psychology of behind what has happened. I talk to other women my age, and we don't talk about it because a lot of the stories are embarrassing, but because of the things that we've allowed ourselves to get into. But it's okay, and that's how we've learned and grown, and we can stop that. We can help empower our kids so that they make wiser decisions and they respect themselves and they respect other people from the get-go.
I agree, and actually I love that, because as you were talking, I talk a lot about ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, and how that starts shaping the future and the brains of the child or the teenager, and increases the likelihood of being bullied or developing a mental illness. And when we look back, we also see that parents or a parent had significant ACEs in their life and have not healed or dealt with maybe some of the struggles that they had. And it's inadvertently, unconsciously being passed on into that next generation because they haven't learned themselves how to deal with it. But when you said about, parents coming and, mums or dads coming, I thought, yes, how empowering for them, because if they're going through something themselves that they're trying to reconcile with or understand, as they feel more confident and more empowered, then it can only be more beneficial to everyone around them, including their children, especially. And we know that, it's like monkey see, monkey do. kids, they're like sponges. If they see you act and talk in a certain way, they believe that that is acceptable and normal and the way it is. And so I love what martial arts does. It enables you to model healthy behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
Is the better word. Normal is a very weird term.
Yeah. What is normal? Yeah.
Right? And so it's healthy or positive behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to do a quick sidebar here and talk about your book, because again, the aim of the podcast is to help young adults, and so we're talking about those in college, universities. What led you to write your book?
Well, that's I think just moms. It was moms in particular putting that idea in my head is what led me to it, and then I happened to be I was really just going to ponder how to create a self-defense program. It wasn't really about a book until I went to a couple of workshops that just some guy stood up. He wasn't even the guy who was doing the workshop. And he gave the spiel about how he had written a book and when he was really sick and he wanted to pass down his knowledge. And then he was selling his program, and I was like the first person to jump out of my chair, almost like I'm not a writer. I didn't think I was a writer. But I just felt this absolute need to do that. So I just followed my instincts, really. It was crazy because that's not something I would have ever seen myself doing. And now I love to write. I love to write blog posts. I love it. I love to create content that will inspire other people. Probably my favorite thing to do.
So you chose, obviously, to help college girls.
The reason I chose college girls was only because I needed to pick a target audience.
Okay.
And I thought that was where the biggest need was. So the philosophy is the same. But if I had just written a self-defense, or at least that's kind of what I was taught in the different programs that I was in, was that it would be harder if I didn't really focus on, a particular focus. So I did that. Although I can take the same exact philosophy and teach anybody. And I do the younger, I've taught younger girls too, which is super fun to do as well. Yeah.
And I think that, I understand the college girls, definitely, because we know that rape on campus is extremely high, more so than people realize. But as you said, right, it's more than just not being a victim and being able to defend yourself if you've been put into a situation where you feel threatened. But it's also enhancing that self-worth and the inner strength, the core values. And it's developing that confidence, because bullying continues on campus. People don't think for 1 minute that it disappears in fact, it's worse, because now you have a whole group of young adults that feel they know everything and anything, but also highly competitive. And bullying, cyberbullying especially, but also there is opportunities to engage in behaviors or pressures to engage in behaviors, not only just sex, but we're talking about drugs and alcohol and just risk-taking behaviors that
absolutely
many young girls, but also boys, feel pressured because, as you said earlier, when you're in college, university, it's not just girls that have an increased likelihood of being exposed to risky behaviors and, not positive actions, but boys as well. And when I say girls and boys, I don't want to get people that are offended, that say, well, identify as gender neutral or binary. I mean, anyone who's in college, campus, or university could be at any time a victim and may not even realize it because of that particular type of environment. It's
Absolutely.
when you are really striving to find your niche in the world. And we know as humans, just as humankind, we all want to be loved, we all want to be accepted, and we all want to think we are worthy of being part of a bit something that's bigger.
Absolutely. I mean, I talk about I was in a sorority, and it's funny because my dad's the one that pushed me to be in a sorority, because he just, again, this is what I'm talking about, when parents tend to perpetuate, not on purpose, but just that's what you're supposed to do. You got to go to college and you got to live on campus. You got to be in a sorority. You got to do. And I thought it was just terrible. But the first, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to it can be great. So because,
but not for everybody.
yes. And then it depends on how strong you are inside, because when you get into that whole sorority and fraternity system, oh my goodness, if you do not have a strong head on your shoulders, you can easily end up doing things that are not in your best interest. Absolutely. The partying is insane, and you just can get yourself in trouble because you want, again, it comes down to that, validation. So you end up getting yourself all dolled up to go attract guys because that's going to make you feel good. And then that just might happen. Did you think that far ahead? Like, what if you do attract somebody and then you're going to get mad, or you're going to be upset with yourself? Or worse, if you actually get raped. And I can't tell you how many stories I've heard of people who've been raped on campus. I can't. I'm people that I know. And so this isn't just, and what's interesting too is after I wrote the book, then the Me Too movement happened, and I actually put a little not an addendum, but I had to add a little section in there because I thought it was so powerful. I was going to gloss over it. My editor actually said, no, you have got to include this, and I'm glad I did. But yeah, so I guess back to just the whole idea of first focusing on the college-bound girl, I think that's why it's so important. But then I thought it's too late. Like, we need to start earlier. I mean, it's never too late, but yeah. And just to be able to have those. So I still think it's just really important and powerful to be able to have those conversations before they go off, at least. So hopefully they'll just have their eyes a little bit more open and be a little bit more aware. And maybe something that I said will pop back into their head at some point while they're there. So
no, I agree. And I talk an awful lot about, I wish they would start introducing mental health awareness as soon as the child goes to school. And that doesn't necessarily mean talking about depression and anxiety. It's just helping them understand emotions and that they can be angry and they can be sad, and that it's normal, but it's helping them develop strategies to understand and cope with it. So, they get more resilient, and the next time life throws them a curveball, which inevitably it will, they're going to be better equipped to handle it, instead of parents that are either giving them pills to help deal with this, or just kind of going, oh, everything's fine, you'll grow out of it. It's just a stage. It's not a stage. If you're leaving a child or a teenager to figure things out for themselves and you're not giving them any kind of support or validation, how can you guarantee they're going to make that right call? Because if you're not there to help them, then they're going to turn to their peers, or they're going to turn to the big wide web. And we know that not all of that information is correct.
yeah.
And so, I feel that if we started at a very young age and help these kids develop good value systems of kindness and compassion and respect for other people and understanding, and also that, yeah, you may not make the high school team, and guess what? That boy will, you really, really like, he's going to date your best friend. If we nurture these kids and enable them to develop, the confidence and understanding of it's not the end of the world, the way I feel is normal, but this will help. I'm always very optimistic that we can change how things go in so they don't have to, or they will face the bullying, the drugs, but they may not make that decision to, I am unworthy, I need to connect with those, they're the peers that I need the support of, so I'm going to go and do what they say, and off we go. And there's always going to be those, but I have this utopian ideal that it would be so nice if we just got them to embrace more understanding of mental health and the challenges that life is going to hand them. How can we help you work through this?
Yeah. And learning, I agree. And the other thing that I really wish that we would teach in the school system from the get-go is to help kids recognize their strengths and weaknesses.
I agree.
And not think that, I mean, we do a terrible job of that right now because we want everybody to live up to this standard and be good at these things. And it's so narrow. And I think that actually is one of the biggest problems, because how can you find yourself in that? How can you feel good about yourself if you're not good at English and math, which are the two most important things to be good at in school? So and it's okay to have weaknesses. Like, you're not going to be good at everything, and that's okay. And so that all of our kids can feel amazing at their strengths. It would be great if they even, so I have these challenges I do at our studio, and every month I do a challenge, and it rotates mind, body, spirit. One of them I do is they have to write down just all the great qualities about themselves. What are all the great things about yourselves? And at first, and I do this in my workshops too. And it's so interesting because some people have a really hard time doing that because you're not allowed to brag. You shouldn't talk about the things you're good at. I have a really big problem with that too. But at the same time, it's okay to have weaknesses too, because, I'm not good at everything. That way, if somebody bullies me about my weakness, I can say, you know what, you're right. I'm not very good at that. And then, then it's a non-issue. It becomes a non-issue because you can't hurt me because I'm okay with who I am.
And I think that's an awesome point, because it is, we've become a society where failure is no longer an option.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you can't be great at everything. That's the way the world is. And you will not always succeed. But I believe everyone has gifts. Everyone has a gift. And we need to nurture and help the child, the teenager, the young adult, enhance and develop that gift, instead of fitting them into this little box which says, you need a degree, you're going to have this job, it's going to pay this much to pay for your house, your 2 cars, you're going to have 2.4 kids, and this is how you're supposed to live. And we become so enmeshed in this comparison of wanting to be the same as, but better than everyone else.
Yeah.
I say to parents, step back and look, what lessons are you showing your children?
Yeah.
As you said, right, it's so unrealistic, the expectations that we want them to live up to, instead of, let's move away from the emphasis so much on schoolwork, but let's look at all the other gifts and the abilities that you have, and let's help develop them, because not everyone can sit in a classroom at a desk for hours on end. People study in different ways. People retain things in different ways. And we should be helping them do that, not saying this is the way the school system works and this is what you need to do. Because I think now that we've started that, since the school curriculum, especially in the States and in the United Kingdom, changed, where the pressure is on grades, and point average and excelling because it drives more money to the school, the increase in bullying and mental illness and substance abuse has tripled. It's skyrocketed.
Yeah, it's from the pressure.
And it is. I mean, we're not allowing kids to be kids. And, I think society has to take responsibility here because of what we're throwing and exposing our kids to. We're not stepping back and, when they see all these horrors on social media and they're dealing with all these things, we're expecting them to handle it because we're treating them as adults, but their brain can't, and we're not sitting down and saying, well, that actually is not appropriate behavior. What's going on there is actually illegal, and we're expecting them to figure it out. And I think it's shame on us as a society who've really not. We keep saying, oh, they've got it so easy, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I would hate to be a teenager today.
Mm-hmm. That's another reason that I really like martial arts, because you're not comparing yourself to anybody else, unless, of course, you choose to, but it's not a competition. And so everybody can get their black belt.
Yes.
You might get it at different speeds,
yes,
but everybody can get there, because on your path, you're only comparing yourself to yourself. It's not like, oh, you've got to be one of the top so that you're not a bench warmer, or that you get to start today. You are just trying to be better than you were, and you're just trying to learn this next skill so you can get to this next stepping stone. And then as long as you don't give up, you're going to get there. And I think that the message is so great, and that's one of the reasons it can empower people. So it's a nice metaphor. It'd be nice if school was like that. You just have to get here the best you can. Yeah. So.
No, and I love that, and I think that's actually a perfect segue, because we're almost running out of time. But I'm going to ask you two questions. So, to any parent or adult family member who's watching this podcast, and they have a child or teenager in the family that they're concerned they may be bullied, or they seem to be withdrawn or struggling, and they're thinking, martial arts, should I, shouldn't I? What would be your response to them? I know what you're going to say, but...
Well, yeah, I would say absolutely. And I think probably what's hard is they might have preconceived notions of what martial arts is. I'm starting to realize that. I've been doing it for so long that I didn't really understand people outside of martial arts, what their viewpoint is of martial arts. So I'm starting to realize that I want to educate people about all the benefits and why it's such a great choice to make. I mean, I think most people should consider it seriously. And I've done so many sports. So, yeah, I would say I'll always tell the instructor, if to try different studio, like go and watch different studios and then see how it feels. One thing about choosing a martial arts studio, I actually wrote a blog on this. So when you choose a martial arts studio, you want to see how the instructors interact with the children, and you want to see how the community interacts with each other, and obviously if they are skilled. But then you get a feel. I'm a big believer in going on your gut instinct. So you go to a few different places and see which one feels like a community that I could be a part of. Because if you want to do martial arts, really want to do martial arts and gain all the benefits, then you want to go from white to black, at least with that intention. Obviously things happen in life, but so it's going to be a little while. So you want to feel good there. But absolutely, for students for children, I mean, anybody, even adults, if you want to develop a little bit of confidence and a feeling of strength and power, and I would just totally recommend it. I mean, if you find a good martial arts studio, then it's definitely going to be beneficial. Yeah.
I agree. And I said one of the reasons I wanted you on the show was because I really wanted people to understand that martial arts is so much more than chopping the block of wood in half or punching a bag. It is, yes, there is that defense component, but it's so much more because of what it does to the mind, the body, the spirit.
Yeah.
And so obviously primarily my audience is adults, but I do have a few podcast followers between the ages of 13 and 18, boys.
Awesome. That's awesome.
And so they're sitting watching this and they're going, oh, I'd love to do, Taekwondo, or I'd love to do karate, but I'm tiny. They may be what we would call the little shrimp in school, right? They may be short, they may be kind of weak, and so just the thought intimidates them. What words of encouragement would you say to that 13-year-old boy that's sitting there going, oh, but I couldn't possibly, I'm tiny?
Well, that's one of the reasons why you should do it, because it doesn't matter your size. And I really wish people would get that. So I've been doing this for so long now, and we used to do this tournament, and I would pair boys and girls, like I would put them in the same category. It didn't matter if they were boy or girl, especially pre-puberty. And people would be up in arms. I'm like, there's no difference. Your daughter is just as strong as somebody else's son. And it's more about, everybody has an equal stance. And even the smaller person, because there's also smarts, right? And so you develop, and you might be faster, and you might, my husband is a great example. And he's amazing. He's a grandmaster and really like the real deal. And he's only like, I'm not even sure if he's 5'6". He might be shorter than that. And so, but, he could certainly defend himself against somebody who's way, way, way bigger than him, because it's more than just brute force. Yeah. And plus it'll just make you feel stronger, which is the point. It's for you to feel as strong and as empowered as you can feel. And I think if people can go into martial arts or anything else you do without comparing yourself to other people, but what is in this for me? It's about me. I know that seems selfish, but it's, you want to have your own journey, and it doesn't have to compare to anybody else's journey.
I love that, and it is. That's what I so love about it, is that everyone goes in, regardless of their gender identity, their age, their size, on equal terms, and each one of them is on their own path.
Yeah.
For themselves. And so it's absolutely awesome. So sad to say we've run out of time, but the good news is, for those that are watching, is that Jodi will be back at a later date for our live show.
Yay.
On the Monday.
That's exciting.
Yes, and I'm hoping by then, maybe those that have watched this podcast, if they have any questions, or if there's something that they would like to talk about more, we can also, during the live podcast, they can actually contact us and ask questions. So I think that would be very helpful as well. But definitely, I think this is something that we need to talk about more, because it definitely is one of those tools that has positive benefits for a child of any age, an adult of any age, let's be honest. And so I say kudos to you for the amazing work that you're doing to help kids everywhere. That's absolutely great.
Thank you.
So,
and you too.
Thank you very much. So we're going to take a very quick commercial break, and we're actually going to get all Jodi's social media links. We're going to read her bio one more time, and also information about her book. So stay right tuned, and I'll be right back.
Jodi Harrison Lee is an author, teacher, mother, and 5th degree martial arts master. She has a bachelor's degree in communications and a master's in education. She's also taught 5th and 6th grade special education for over 10 years, while simultaneously pursuing martial arts and starting a family. Her mission has always been to empower others to feel and be strong inside and out. Her life experience, paired with over 25 years of martial arts training and teaching, helps her take others from a feeling of insecurity to one's personal strength. Her and her husband, Grandmaster Jung Lee, own and run a martial arts studio teaching Taekwondo and are launching their new virtual studio. Plus, Jodi wrote the book Find Your Strength that's geared towards young women, outlining her philosophy of self-defense. The book focuses on finding one's strength mentally, physically, and emotionally. Make sure to find them online at themartialwaykicks.spblive.net. You can also visit her book website at findyourstrength.com and follow the Martial Arts Studio and book Facebook pages at The Martial Way Kicks and Find Your Strength Jodi.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Engage, Educate, Empower with Master Jodi Harrison Lee. Please do check out her blog posts and social media sites. Some really great information that helps not only children and teenagers, but also adults. And if you've ever wondered if martial arts may help you, I do urge you to take a look at it and maybe see if you can encourage your child or teenager to participate in karate or taekwondo or something similar, because not only does it help develop confidence and self-worth, but also physical strength, and enhances the mind, body, spirit, that holistic approach that is so good for child, teenagers' mental health. So that's it for another week. Please join me again next Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time for another episode of Engage, Educate, and Empower. Please stay safe, stay well, and I'll see you again next week. Take care.